And we have the short list. President Trump said today that he spent the morning interviewing 4 candidates for the United States Supreme Court. The Washington Post is now reporting who those 4 were. They were all federal appeals court judges. The 4 judges are Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, Amul Thapar, and Raymond Kethledge. The president also said he would be meeting 2 or 3. He said 2 or 3 more candidates. The Washington Post reports that 2 other federal appeals court judges the president will probably meet are Thomas Hardiman and William Pryor, Jr. It is typical for presidents to choose federal appeals court judges for 2 reasons. First, they have generally demonstrated the legal skills and scholarship that meet the basic standards of a Supreme Court justice. And more importantly, they have all already been confirmed by the United States Senate. And all of these judges were appointed by Republican presidents, and most of them attracted some Democratic votes in the confirmation process. In fact, only one of them got no Democratic votes. According to past confirmation precedents, the next 2 months will be a rush to confirm a Supreme Court nominee, with a simultaneous desperate rush to try to block a Supreme Court nominee by Democrats in the Senate. For the past 15 Supreme Court nominees, which takes us all the way back to 1975, the average number of days between being nominated and having a hearing is 40 days. The average number of days between being nominated and having a confirmation vote on the Senate floor is 66 days. That means with the president planning to nominate a candidate next Monday, July 9th, the confirmation hearing will probably be on or about Monday, August 20th, with a final confirmation vote on the Senate floor on or about Thursday, September 13th. Now, contrary to popular belief on Twitter and elsewhere outside of the United States Senate, this will not be a confirmation process in which the Democratic minority in the Senate has any parliamentary procedural power or trick that they can use to stop this nomination. Among more credible sounding misconceptions advanced this weekend was the idea that the Democrats could, quote, exploit the Senate's unanimous consent structure to grind the Senate to a halt. That was suggested by the former President pro tem of the California State Senate, Kevin De Leon, a Democrat who is running for the United States Senate against California's senior Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein. Senator De Leon may have done a masterful job leading the California Senate, and he is certainly an expert on parliamentary procedure in the California Senate. But the unanimous consent norms of the United States Senate actually have nothing to do with the confirmation process of a Supreme Court justice. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has the parliamentary right to bring the nomination to the Senate floor anytime he wants to, and Senator McConnell will then ask for unanimous consent to proceed to consideration of the nomination. The Democrats will, of course, refuse to give unanimous consent, and then Senator McConnell will call for a roll call vote to proceed to the nomination, and the Republicans will then vote to proceed to that nomination. And the elapsed time between the denial of unanimous consent and that roll call vote to proceed will be a matter of seconds. The Senate will not be ground to a halt. Democrats in the Senate already know all of this, and their supporters around the country should soon be realizing that there is no trick on the Senate floor that they can pull, that the only way to stop the next Supreme Court confirmation is with Republican votes against the nomination, which is why there is now so much attention on Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine, one of the 2 Republican senators who is pro-choice and wants to preserve access to abortion under Roe versus Wade. Senator Collins said this yesterday.
A nominee's position on whether or not they respect precedent will tell me a lot about whether or not they would overturn Roe v. Wade. A candidate for this important position who would overturn Roe v. Wade would not be acceptable to me, because that would indicate an activist agenda that I don't want to see a judge have.
Joining us now, Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com. Also joining us, Sam Stein, the politics editor of the Daily Beast. Both are MSNBC political analysts. Jason, the short list is out, and there's one woman on it at this point. There has been talk that a woman nominee might be the way to go, and that might actually help hold on to Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, the two Republican senators who are the only two pro-choice Republican members of the Senate.
I guess if they somehow think that voting for a woman is going to have some ideological difference, I would say go back 20 years. Everybody who voted for Clarence Thomas because they thought him being black would make a difference obviously learned their lesson. Look, at the end of the day, I think Senator Collins is lying, because every single nominee that the president is going to pick, whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, whether they're Indian American, whether they're African American, is going to want to end Roe versus Wade at some level. So either she needs to make a commitment now and simply say, I can't vote for anybody while this president is in office because I know what they're going to want to do, or she should stop performing and simply say, I'm going to get in line with the rest of my party, and no one's going to have access to abortions, at least state by state, within a year and a half, because that's the reality that we're facing. And even if it's a woman, they will still vote to end Roe versus Wade.
And Sam Stein, Susan Collins seems actually confident that even with a new justice who wants to repeal Roe versus Wade, that it won't happen, because she actually said on TV yesterday she doesn't think Neil Gorsuch would vote to repeal it, and she seems to have a real faith that Chief Justice Roberts won't. Let's listen to what she said about Justice Roberts.
Justice Roberts has made very clear that he considers Roe v. Wade to be settled law. I would not support a nominee who demonstrated hostility to Roe v. Wade, because that would mean to me that their judicial philosophy did not include a respect for established decisions, established law.
So, Sam, that translates into what at the White House? What do they have to do to get Susan Collins' vote?
You know, I actually think that was the more important clip from the Collins interview, because what it says is if you are trying to push a nominee through the Senate, you have to adopt, and it's not a hard playbook, the Gorsuch-Roberts playbook, which is casually refer to Roe v. Wade as the law of the land, say you respect precedent, and then don't give one iota or one inkling of indication about how you would vote on the matter if it came to you by saying, you know, I can't prejudge these matters. And then you would get Susan Collins' vote. So it's a very simple playbook, actually, to get someone to get the senator's vote. It does not translate into Roe v. Wade being secure in the slightest. These people have not been offered the opportunity to take a whack at Roe v. Wade from a judicial perspective, and we don't know how they would vote when given that opportunity. There's certainly different ways to go at Roe v. Wade. You could chip away at it, but one of the things that is striking to me is that we are told time and time again by conservative legal scholars that Roe v. Wade is flimsy legally and morally reprehensible, but how dare you assume that they would do away with it when granted power? And those two things just don't compute. There is a long, generations-long pursuit by the Federalist Society to get rid of this law. The Federalist Society put together the list of people who Donald Trump is choosing from. It goes to reason that they would choose people who would also get rid of Roe v. Wade.
The Washington Post is reporting that the president is especially drawn to contenders with name-brand degrees, such as from Ivy League universities such as Harvard and Yale, which makes him like every president before him. He also wants to see a portfolio of solid academic writing, which is also like presidents before him. And then there's the Trump part. Trump does not care to actually read it. He simply wants to know that it exists. And actually, to be fair, that may be true of most presidents also, Jason Johnson.
Yeah, I really doubt that Donald Trump is up late at night reading law reviews at the golf course saying, my goodness, I stared to ceases. This is amazing. He's not doing that, right? And I can't imagine that these 45-minute conversations he's supposedly having with these nominees are particularly engaging either. Look, everybody knows that they're going to play the pantomime here. Donald Trump is going to meet with these people. As long as they don't personally offend him or insult him, he's fine with them. These nominees desperately want to get on the court, so they're going to be as milquetoast as they can so that they can get this opportunity.
66 days, gentlemen. We're going to be on this for 66 days, according to the past precedent. Jason Johnson, Sam Stein, thank you for joining us.
Lawrence.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. To see more videos, click right here, and subscribe.